Guys, thanks for listening to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I also want to thank the following sponsors for their support of this podcast. Without them, this podcast would not be possible. I want to thank the Go Hunt Insider, Lorenzo Sartini and his crew over at Go Hunt. They have created the Insider, which is an amazing tool for you guys that are researching all these different western states and looking for which units to apply for and put in for. They also have the Go Hunt maps, the Go Hunt gear shop. Right now, go to gohunt.com, click sign up for the Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a $50 Go Hunt gear shop gift card just for signing up. Go Hunt's been with me since the beginning of 2015. When I started this podcast, they've been a very loyal title sponsor of this podcast, and I want to thank them for their support. Make sure to go and sign up for the Go Hunt Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. Guys, I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That's KUIU.com. KUIU Ultralight Hunting is a direct-to-consumer brand that sells the best ultralight hunting equipment and gear on the market today. You can go to KUIU.com, and order directly there on their website. I also want to thank phonescope.com, Cheston, the guys over at Phonescope. Go to phonescope.com. Anything you order there, use the JScott23 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount there at Phonescope. I also want to thank Lathrop & Sons, their custom boot system and custom footbed manufacturer. These guys are the boot doctors, the boot gurus. They're very, very helpful. They know a lot about boots. I have switched this season to the Lathrop & Sons Encompass boot. That's what I've worn primarily on my Coues deer and mule deer hunts in Mexico. And then I use the Mountain Hunter for my sheep hunts, specifically desert sheep. In any of that more technical terrain, Lathrop & Sons has a phenomenal 3D mapping imprints and tracing kit. They make custom orthotics, just really, really comfortable, very user-friendly boots and custom insoles. Go to lathropsons.com to find out more information. You can also check out Lathrop & Sons on Instagram. They have 3 custom boot options: the Mountain Hunter, the Mountain Hunter Elite, and the Mountain Hunter Encompass, as well as the High Country Synergy footbeds custom. They also make all of these custom footbeds in wide and super wide, as well as the boots, which is rare for a boot manufacturer. Reach out to the owners, Stephen and James at Lathrop & Sons at 618-544-8782. That's lathropsons.com. Guys, I want to thank you for supporting this podcast. Love to hear your feedback. Any questions you might have, you can reach out at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. That's my email address. You can follow along on Instagram at jscottoutdoors. Always feel free to send me a direct message. Love hearing from you guys. And let's get right to these episodes. Daniel Franco, Burnt Timber Outfitters. How you doing?
Great. How you doing, man?
Good. I want to welcome everyone to the podcast. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus here, and I thought the great way to break the ice here would have Mr. Daniel Franco on and talk a little Arizona elk and antelope. So what's it looking like there, buddy?
You call that a hiatus?
I was searching for words, and that's the first one that came to mind.
That's a pretty good one. So,
how's things going?
No, good. Life's good. Just got back from the Western Hunting Expo and had a good time up there and getting ready for application season.
Yeah, so Daniel, let's talk about going into this season. I think before you can actually start talking about applying, let's talk about last season. Let's talk about how things went last season as far as holdover bulls. Did the season go well? Could have it gone better? how does that lead up to then you kind of looking into this time frame saying, well, geez, I hope we get good moisture because of this, or we had such a banner year last year that, man, I don't know about this next year, or we left a bunch of bulls out there. I think if we can get some moisture, it's going to be incredible. Where do you fall there?
Kind of all of the above, to be honest with you. We did have a really good season last year, as far as elk is concerned. We got a lot of that monsoonal moisture that came through last year, carried right into the hunts, actually. Quite a few days during the archery hunts and even into the early rifle where we did get rain and get moisture. So like I said, we did have a good year last year for elk, mainly in 3A, 3C. Killed some great bulls, both on the archery and the early rifle. So we're realistically, we've got 2 years of really good monsoon moisture that have brought us to where we're at now. We've had a fair amount of winter moisture as well. Some areas have definitely got hit a little harder than others, but we've kind of stringed along a couple of just really timely storms that have put some snow on the ground, had some good rains earlier in the year. So going into this year, it looks like we're putting together 3 pretty good years of moisture and feed going into this fall.
So you're optimistic with what we've gotten from storms?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was, like I said, quite a bit of rain last year. I'm sure everybody was kind of watching it, but yeah, we were well above average. I want to say 250% above average on our moisture last year between the middle of June clear into October. So that put a lot of feed on the ground. Definitely packed on some antler last year. I think with there being so much feed and so much moisture, it actually spread the elk out a little bit last year during the rut. So broken points didn't seem to be an issue last year. Going into the late hunts last year, we did see a few bulls that were broke a little bit here and there. Some missing half a beam and whatnot, but a lot of the bulls were intact. And I think that, is largely due to having so much feed and so much moisture in the units last year that they were able to spread out and weren't on top of each other, which, unfortunately meant the rut wasn't quite as on it as typical.
Because they're spread out, they're not as congregated, they don't get all
just
balled
not
up and get just crazy, but then you get broken antlers when that happens, right?
Exactly. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, so but going into after the rut and into this year, we just saw very few broken points, which is okay, which is a good thing. So going into this year, we're pretty optimistic. It's going to be another really good year. We've got the moisture behind them. I think, realistically, if the elk has the age and the genetics to grow it, then there's no reason he shouldn't grow it this year.
So you think everything is lined up from what you can tell that it's going to be an above average year there in Unit 3C?
Yes. Yep. And even, spreading across into Unit 1 and 27. There was this last storm that came through in that higher country up there. They were pushing 5 feet of snow up there around Hannigan's Meadow. So, they've definitely got the snow, definitely have the moisture. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
So we have a new moon September 15th and a full moon on September 29th. How do the opening dates of the archery season play in and the early rifle? Is it early rifle or muzzleloader this year in 3C?
Early rifle.
Okay, so how do those dates of the full moon being the 29th, the new moon being the 15th with the archery start date?
So the archery start date of the 15th is going to be phenomenal. Normally we're starting 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in there. And because of the calendar year, it's pushed it clear back to where now the start date of that archery being on the 15th, it's a new moon. It's going to give them plenty of time to kind of get going. So I think it's going to be from day one. It's going to be great. We won't be battling that moon. The elk will have had basically kind of that first part of their rut. Rolling into that first week of little to no pressure, and so by the time the 15th rolls around, it's going to be gangbusters out there. So
a lot of times in 3C, you can kind of get that, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and they get kind of cranked up and get, kind of feeling it, but then all of a sudden they get that pressure, early pressure that starts. By starting the 15th, starting late, it almost seems like it will allow them to kind of go through that early period where they normally do get kind of cranked up, where starting the 15th, it seems to me that it will allow them to go ahead and just keep, building and building into the opener. With almost, if you had to pick ideal dates, the 15th year in and year out, it's probably about as good as it gets.
Yeah, as far as starting date, you're going to start, just rolling into typically what we would consider to be kind of your peak rut, rolling into that 20th through the 24th. So yeah, should be phenomenal as far as rutting and just elk action rolling right into the first day of the opener of the archery season.
And that puts the early rifle starter basically right there in the full moon. But at that point, Aren't they just going so nutso that in 3C specifically, it doesn't really matter?
I think it will affect it a little bit. Like I said, typically our peak rut, what we've kind of seen year after year, is that 20th through the 24th, somewhere in there. So I think by the time we get to the 29th, and rolling into October, I think it's going to be kind of that tail end rut for the early rifle hunters, and couple that with a full moon, and I think I don't think it's as near as optimal as the chain of events that we see on the archery hunt. So,
when you look at a trend, we've talked about on the podcast before after the burn and how well 3C did, and then it kind of went through a period where it was real good for, a handful of years. The res, because of the fire, they weren't hunting the west side very hard, maybe even closed it for a year or two, and then they've opened it back up, and then, 3C kind of went through a period of a lull. Where do you see the trend now going as far as quality of hunt, quality of antlers? Where is it? Is it holding steady? Is it getting better? What do you think?
I think it's slightly above average to holding. I think the last couple of years, I think we definitely kind of saw, it hit its, peak back in 07, 08, 09. It kind of dropped off towards, the middle of, 2015, 16, and it's kind of gradually come back up. I think lately, the last couple of years, I think we're trending at holding to even slightly up as far as quality is concerned. We've definitely seen a decrease in the overall elk numbers, specifically in cow numbers. We're not seeing near as many cows as what we did 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I think quality wise, I think we're in pretty good shape. I kind of look at last year and even the year before that. There were some great bulls in the unit, some great bulls harvested, and I think quality wise, it's definitely still. I consider it to be one of those top tier units.
How do you see the late hunts? I know over the years you guys have done well on the 3C late hunt, but it's definitely a tough hunt. Any changes to that this year?
Yes. So starting a little bit last year, they started some hunter pull depredation hunts in pretty much the majority of Unit 3A. And, we spend time in 3A, we spend time in 3C for that late hunt. And it affected us a little bit last year on the late hunt, in some of that lower country, some of the 3A and even a little bit of the lower 3C stuff. This year, they're actually doing more of those hunter pull depredation hunts, as well as some over-the-counter, unlimited number of over-the-counter hunts in 3A. And unfortunately, that is going to basically all but desecrate the elk herds in all of 3A. So that's going to make the late hunt in 3A, 3C even that much harder, and in my opinion, just not very good. Like you said, we've been fortunate. We've been able to harvest some pretty good bulls on that late hunt, but with basically eliminating the opportunity to go into 3A and hunt that, and other hunters as well, it's going to really congregate the majority of the hunters in 3C, which is going to make it extremely tough.
And was the idea on the 3A just depredation? Were there elk in areas that they didn't want the elk?
Yes and no. So basically, you've got a couple of ranchers and landowners that didn't like the elk, didn't want them down there, whatever the case, and raised a big enough stink to the point where the Game and Fish decided to go ahead and do some over-the-counter hunts in there, and basically, by the time frame that they're allotting and unlimited number, I mean, basically they're telling us they want them gone. The crazy thing is there's some landowners in that unit that have land that's locked up, but you still can't access it. So by doing these hunts, essentially you're just going to push a lot of these elk onto some of that private that's locked up, and unfortunately those are the guys that are complaining the loudest. So it's kind of a moot point, in my opinion. It's kind of a dumb idea, but I mean they're trying to keep both sides happy and figure this is the best way to do it. So it is what it is.
All right, let's talk a little bit about 4B, which is kind of the redhead bucktooth stepchild across the road. But it's amazing what the Highway 260 there, that dividing line, creates between 3C and 4B. And historically, 4B has been, definitely the dog of the area. But it does still provide some decent hunting. How do you see the September 15th archery dates there in 4B? How do you see 4B trending compared to how it maybe used to? What's the scoop there?
So about 6 years ago, they did away with their early rifle hunt in 4B, which it took a couple of years before I think we started to see any effect of that. And they actually did that for about 6 years. Last year was the first year that they brought back their 4B early rifle hunt. Prior to last year, we definitely were seeing the quality trending up. And it actually, the last couple of years has been a pretty decent hunt. There's quite a few locals that have drawn it and hunted it over the years, and it's turned into a pretty viable unit for quality elk. So last year we had a non-resident that had been kind of chasing the 3A 3C early rifle, was always just a point behind, it seemed like. And when I saw that they were going to do that 4B early rifle, I called him, said, hey, here's the deal. I don't know that you're ever going to catch 3C. I think that you'll have enough to draw this 4B early rifle with them putting it back in this year. We talked about it. He decided to go ahead and do it, and applied for it, and he drew the one max pull tag for a non-resident, came out and hunted with us, had a great hunt, and was on some really good bulls the first couple of days. And on day 5, we ended up going into a little pocket of bulls that we've known about, and he ended up killing I think he was right at 367 bull on day 5 of that early rifle hunt. So, I mean, we've definitely seen it getting better over the years. There again, on the same token, a lot of these over-the-counter hunts, they're doing that as well in the northern part of 4B, which is going to affect the unit. They're going to try to eliminate and annihilate those elk in the 4B North Country, which will affect the unit. Absolutely will. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see kind of how this year goes after they do a lot of these depredation hunts and see how it does affect some of the elk in the rest of 4B. So
Right on. Antelope.
Antelope, we've definitely seen some positive things here in the last year or two. They have decreased tags. They've needed to, but we have seen them start to decrease the number of tags in 4B and 3A and 4A. So that's all been good and been positive. Numbers are down. Quality is down a little bit, but I mean, you can still find some pretty solid bucks, roaming around kind of these areas around here. We do have kind of one sleeper buck that we've been watching for a couple of years that we're hoping we can get a tag or get somebody with a tag and see if we can't put him on the ground. So.
Right on, buddy. So we've talked about 3C, we've talked about the archery, the late rifle. Is there still that late archery hunt in 3C, in 4B? No. Okay. And do you think that's really helped that alleviate some of the pressure?
A little bit of the pressure. I mean, there was only, I think the last year they had it, there was 50 tags in 3C, and I want to say 30 in 4B if I remember correctly. So there wasn't a ton of pressure, but there was enough to kind of push them around a little bit and move them around. But yeah, they got rid of those quite a few years ago, which was fine. I don't know if they killed too many bulls on them just because it's such a tough hunt and later in the year. But they got rid of those, so which was fine with me.
Yeah, those were always very tough hunts.
Very tough.
What else is going on? You're coaching basketball?
I am. I've got wrangled into helping coach girls basketball, if you can believe that.
And how's it going?
Not bad. We're kind of wrapping up our season. First round of state starts actually tomorrow. So
nice. How's the team doing? I mean, obviously pretty good if you're making it to state.
Good. Yeah, we made the state bracket, so we're in the top 16. We're going in at number 10. So I'm going to play a team that we've already played this year and beat. So we're pretty optimistic there, and then we'll go from there.
Well, good. So if people want to reach out to you, Burnt Timber Outfitters on Instagram, or what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So we've got an Instagram page, Burnt Timber Outfitters, on Instagram. We also have a website, burnttimberoutfitters.com. On there, it's got, we try to keep it updated every year. I've already uploaded all of our pictures from last season on there. So it's up to date right now. But it also has a contact page on there where you can call me on my cell phone. It's also got an email where you can get a hold of us and ask us questions, talk to us about your point situation and what's the best way to use them, and kind of go from there. So
awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing with us. Glad things are well. Hope you guys do well in the tournament and continue doing all that great work that you do. I get a lot of reports from hunters reporting back in. They heard you on the podcast and have nothing but great things to say about you and your guys. So keep up the great work, okay?
Awesome. Thank you, Jay, and thanks for all you do. We appreciate it.
All right, buddy. God bless. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.